I think we have a long history of protests and demonstrations and that sort of even two revolutionary attempts and I think all know that 30 years civil war and all that sort of political mobilization against the state. We have a long history in Sri Lanka. But this particular protest movement, I think the main difference is it's a very peaceful, non-violent sort of protest. And there was no proper, centralized organization behind. That is a very striking factor. There were a lot of organizations at the same time and a lot of individuals. Like there's no one single centralized organization to mobilize people. It started, I think, with this economic. I think you all know that fuel queues, gas queues, and that sort of difficulties of our everyday life. That was quite interesting. I think I was in Delhi when self-declared protests, when they started in early March. Before that, whenever you when you browse the Facebook, you see this political humor, memes, right? That was really interesting, that the amount of humorous memes in Facebook, it's like, that is the most appropriate way of being with the political is humor, something like that. And even a lot of people, politically sensitive people, they felt quite, the distance with this, why people make everything, humorous. That was the thing, when since 2015, when Mahinda defeated for the first time in 2015, that government actually, that there was a kind of a, relatively free space. And even in 2019, though Gotabaya took into power, he didn't manage to suppress that space. People still, that was the space that people kept for themselves, that space of democratic deliberation. But it mainly happened with this, through humor. In March this year, I was in Delhi. So when I see the Facebook, I felt something is lacking, some sort of, that unfamiliarity in the everyday, So then I realized this decrease of humorous memes, and then the, certain anger, frustration that is coming to the picture. So then around the same time, the self-declared protest started. And these protests were very, small protests, like 200, 300 people initially, sometimes even less. But then one protest in near president's private residence, the initially protests were very silent and they were not very aggressive sort of thing. But that protest went very aggressive, and people tried to even break the barricades, and later the government had to impose curfew. So first they demanded fuel, gas, electricity. And soon they started, this government is important. You now you should leave, go to home. Meanwhile, post went viral calling for 1 million people to Colombo golf face on 9th April. So that's a random sort of post. And in that protest, you could see the slogans like not only go home, like system change, power to the people and something. So that is how this gradually developed. And then on April 9th, it was a successful protest, and it was an amazing situation in Colombo that particular day. It's like all the, all the ethnicities, religions, and sexual identities and cultural identities, all the lifestyles, all the social classes, different ages, but mainly young people, but very culturally rich, and that was not aggressive at all. What we experienced in the 31st March in front of President's private residence, and this was completely different when you take these two things into account. And that, because I think that was a kind of a cathartic moment, because people felt that people's power in that moment, so they didn't want to be angry. They felt, like there are people who still ready to fight again. I think, this Gotabaya, we call it Gota go home. So this Gota contained a lot of meaning, like because he came into power, he used kind of a quite strong anti-Muslim ideology. I think, remember, that was they used this Easter attacks, and then there were a lot of unbelievable rhetoric against Muslims that they created. When this wave against Gotabaya, so then the Muslim population, they were quite enthusiastic about supporting this demonstration, and I think it was really nice. I think. In Goldface, I think hundreds of Muslims they ended fasting that day, on April 9th. At the same time, Christian priests were marching. That sort of situation, I mean, you could see even visually that harmony that was there. I mean, there are a lot of images and videos. So that's why I think, because these people, this regime, Rajapaksa regime, and like last 1.5 decades, they use this ethnic sentiment to get into power and keep their power. So earlier it was against Tamil, but after 2009, because when they ended war and there was no LTT, so they wanted a new enemy. So that was Muslims. So then I think they support, not openly, but we know that they supported these anti-Muslim Sinhala Buddhist militant organization. They were dividing the country. I think we all have imagined separate nations: Tamils, Sinhalese, Muslims. Within Sri Lanka, we we have imagined we are like three imagined communities in a way. But this has a moment. This has a opening. At least I'm quite sure, like in recent future, no one can use this ethnic religious divide to get into power. What happened in 2019, that cannot repeat in near future. Still, there are a lot of uncertainties. One thing is, still we have to deal with this parliament, which has no people behind it. That there's no popular mandate behind it. So if not only the government but also the opposition, everything has changed now. This the vote once they had, that is not there anymore. But now to stable the country and to even go for an election for a limited period, we have to rely on this particular parliament, which is not representing the actual voice of the people. So that is one issue. But now we have a president, acting president, and these people, all the politicians. I mean, most of the politicians in the at least in the two main parties, they used to run Sri Lanka with underhand political deals and that sort of things. Not very corrupted politicals. There was no people's voice, or that those aspirations, they never properly represented. Still, we have to deal with these people. So that uncertainty is there. And at the same time, this economic situation that is like sitting on a volcano, which has already, I think, started that issue, how to deal with that. And for that, you need a relatively stable interim government to deal with international financial institutions and the other countries. So trustworthy interim government, and that is there. And so that can, this economic situation again can provoke again this sort of mobilizations. Now I think at this point we should be very careful in a way, use this moment slowly, how to get what we imagined